This is Tinfoil Tales, and I'm your host, Brandon Wright. On tonight's episode, we'll be joined in the studio by our guest, Ed Corella. Ed is here to help talk about some of the topics ranging from the unusual weather patterns that's been going on and interesting other phenomenon, along with some other tinfoil tales of conspiracies. So sit back, relax, and try and enjoy tonight's episode. And again, thanks for checking out Tinfoil Tales. Ed, thanks for making the trip down here and joining me in the studio tonight. How's the weather going?
Well, I want to come off the bat and say, like, if you're not noticing anything, then maybe you don't care, but I don't know. Like, I've been looking at the skies a lot, and I feel like there's some weirder cloud formations. I don't know anything about clouds, okay? I'm just saying, when the weather has been acting strange, like, we got hit with, I forgot the term for it. It wasn't a tornado, but it was like, kind of like a line side of winds, and it came with a storm.
Straight line wind.
I don't know if it's straight line. It's a weird fancy term for it. Is that what it is? But like, so this thing took a tree out of our house and knocked it on our house, and like it happened a lot. And it was just so freakishly weird because it was not predicted. Like, it's supposed to be some wind and hard rain, heavy rainstorms, but like, we literally got a tree fall on our house, and then we got the text 90 per hour winds. You didn't tell us about that. So, I feel like the weather machine is off. Something's off.
We just had a bunch of wind come through here this past week, and there was a tree right up the road, uprooted. The neighbor's tree fell over.
Yeah.
A couple other spots had trees fall over. There's a place up north that their pavilion collapsed on people because the wind. So, yeah, the wind around here has gotten questionable at times.
Yeah.
But far as like the actual weather and everything else, like, some people can call it global warming, which that's another topic for another day. But
yeah. So I don't know if that is real now. Like, again, like, you know how they say, like, we were talking before about how there's so much vastness of trees everywhere, and, you know, the trees take up all the carbon dioxide and eat it, and it's like, yeah. I don't think anything's any different. They say, like, the polar ice caps are melted. I've never been there. They could just tell you what they want, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't disagree that the weather and the temperature's rising, but you have to go back through history and look through what supposedly happened, because no one was really there, so they don't really know. They're just guessing. But we came out of an ice age how many years ago? Clearly the weather and temperature changed because the whole planet was covered in ice. For a majority of the planet was under ice. And then there's a great thought. Well, what caused the temperatures to rise then? Clearly wasn't...
No car, yeah. We didn't have cars then.
Yeah, it wasn't from that. Like, the temperature started rising anyways. The temperature's been rising periodically throughout the years, so...
Right.
They can't blame it on what we're doing now, because that wasn't around 100-something years ago. That wasn't around 20,000 years ago. It wasn't around whatever. Like, so the whole thing about global warming...
Right.
Could be bullshit, could be true. I don't really know. I haven't really looked into it that often. Just have my own assumptions, and I think logically, and sometimes, yeah, I could see it happening. It makes sense. But at the same time, it's like, what made it do it prior?
I don't know. And they want to blame. See, that's when they go straight for the kill. Like, it's all the automobiles and all the gas burning, and it's like...
We need to go to electrical vehicles. Okay, well, what makes electricity? It's got to be some form of energy. Well, what usually causes the energy? What causes the parts to be made and manufactured?
Right.
Like,
something is basically getting burnt to make that.
You're still using natural resources that's not electricity to make these electrical running vehicles, and then your electrical grades out in California are getting overpowered because of this new law that they've put into place, and people's utilities are now being monitored out in Colorado because of the consumptions, because they're using all this energy. So now everyone signs these agreements to limit how much power they're using, so they're having unnatural heats and everything else, so it's limiting the usage of their electricity, wait a minute. Isn't that how you're supposed to be commuting now? All electric? Like,
Yeah, actually, there was an older guy at this car show that was talking about this exact thing too. He thinks it's messed up. I'm like, oh, we're using up our grid, but then they want us. Yeah, it's a weird tie-in about.
they want you to go on the grid to use power, yet they're claiming there's too much people on the grid.
Right.
Consuming too much power. But gas and coal and every other resource is bad, polluting the earth, yet
right.
the manufactured energy is being created from those. It's like, how do you escape one from the other?
Right. Yeah, my friend brought up a point. So, like, we've basically been using power plants and the same thing for years, but yet they increase same tech. It's basically the same technology. It's like, why do they increase the price of energy? It's no different than it was, like, I don't know, in the 50s. We're still using the same shit. Suddenly the price for that's more expensive. To me, he said that doesn't make sense either.
The only thing about it is the cost of everything else has gone up. So the cost of maintaining that has gone up because the average person that does that job gets paid a lot differently nowadays than what they used to. It's
just weird that it's literally like the same thing. I don't know. I know it's all about
inflation.
Being greedy.
That no one wants to ever really talk about because we don't have an inflation problem here.
But I do feel like the weather, and like, I don't know if the whole 1 hour, the time change, they got rid of that, correct? Right? Yeah.
No, they still have
it.
Daylight savings time's still a thing.
I thought they got rid of it. Somebody said they did. Am I dumb? Bad research.
No, the daylight savings, it's still a thing.
I thought they got. Well, I don't see the point of it either, other than we'll just save the day longer. It does not matter. That 1 hour screws with you.
It's still the same exact amount of time. It's just you're not getting an extra hour. They just moved the clock back to make it look like you got an extra hour at daylight.
Isn't that weird, though, like how psychologically that has effect on you? Because that takes me about over a month to get used to, if that.
I've never noticed it. Like, times change. Like, okay, I hardly sleep.
Then you're a special case. For me, I've had... I think the best time I slept was when I had Rona. I finally slept like 10, 12 hours, and normally I'd sleep 5 to 6.
If I'm getting 5 or 6 hours of sleep, that's usually...
Oh, that's being a dad right there.
No, I've been this way before I was ever a dad. I just don't sleep that much. Never have. I used to work third shift, and I'd get off work at 6 in the morning, and I'd go to bed at 7, and I'd be up by like 11.
Now, going back to like the weather, like there's been... If it's videos or not... And I've shown him some of these, like, water showing up in deserts where it's not supposed to. And I believe the Hoover Dam is drained. And, like, it's like, why? Like, that thing is a big, huge pile of water. I don't know if it's because of maintenance. They didn't set it. But the whole thing is drained, I guess. I'm like, is that the cause of all the water and weird spots?
I think a lot of it has to do with... They're claiming it's from Vegas and all the stuff they got going on there, but I think some of that water was also out towards California and some other things. But
California's also sinking.
Not too far from California and the Hoover Dam, you also have something up in that area that they don't want you to talk about as well. That they do a lot of their testing and everything. It's not too far from the Hoover Dam, that Area 51.
Is it near there? Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's all in the same
area. I feel all that crap is in the same state, obviously. In the same triangle of weirdness.
Yeah. If you go out to Vegas, and then once you just start to leave Vegas, it's just barren.
Yeah. Well, it was weird for a reason. I think for a reason it's barren. So nobody goes and tries to walk, sneak around. I don't know.
The whole reason Vegas was built was basically because of that reason. There was literally nothing there.
But it was weird that they chose a spot that was nothing there. Like, okay, it could have been a gas station and then just added houses and like, oh, let's make this the most terrible city in the world, but yet ritzy.
Well, they did it for the gambling purposes, so I think a lot of it was tied back in with the mafia.
They just bury the people that didn't pay.
Basically.
Like, let's just dig a hole for Tommy here.
And then, like I said, you got your Area 51 that's about 90 miles north of Vegas, which, again, why would you make something out there unless it's because there's literally nothing else around there.
Right, you can get away with whatever.
So,
remember that raid?
the raid from 3 years ago of going in there and clapping alien ass cheeks.
Like, that was pretty bold of them, but at the same time, nothing came out of it.
Some people actually did go, but they didn't ever cross the lines because they already had enough white Jeeps out there that they're like, well, we're probably going to get shot.
Or vaporized, one of the two.
I mean, it would have been interesting had they actually tried it. I was kind of rooting for them, even though they'd have probably been
right. That would have, and like that was funny because what was weirdly weird is they were leaking footage of them being trained, showing people the Nataro run.
Yeah,
and I'm like, who let that out? Like, somebody should get fired for letting that kind of information out in a press conference.
If the government was really going to have a secret base where they kept, let's just say there really are aliens out there.
Sure.
That is the most well-documented place of non-existent places that everyone knows about. Why would you keep your technology and all your other hidden stuff there if that's literally that well known? Yes, the base exists. Yes, there is stuff there. But now it's just the place they want you to think about. That makes any sense. Like,
it's a distraction to where
yes.
that's where
everyone goes to this place now, and that's not where the real shit is. So I'm assuming they've got another base that no one knows about that the real shit happens.
Actually, I guess now that I think about it, so there's Roswell 47, and then there's Area 51, and like I forgot how Area 51 got on the grid. Was that?
It was the Nevada testing site.
Okay.
And it wasn't too far from. There was something out there that they used to test with the bombs back in the atomic.
Oh, when they had those videos of like blowing up houses.
Yeah, they did all that out in the Nevada testing areas just because, again, there was nothing else out there. So let's go build Las Vegas.
My thing is,
right around where we're testing atomic weapons.
My thing is, how did those cameras survive knowing that, because they got the footage of it blowing.
A lot of them were so many miles away.
It just looks so close up, but like, I didn't think camera technology was that good back in the day. And now that I review those videos where shit's blowing up and houses looking like Terminator 2.
Yeah, there's that one video that's always from the sky, and you see all the ships on the ground and everything, and the one gets set off in the ocean.
Oh yeah,
you're like, how did the thing survive the plane, like the turbulence?
I don't know.
So,
like, I still don't think cameras are that good. Like, That must have been a huge camera.
That and maybe the military's cameras are a little different than what the public access was, because I don't doubt that whatever the military has.
Yeah, that's a whole nother episode itself. Yeah. But we'll never know.
What they have is going to be far more advanced than what we have, just because why wouldn't it be? Like, the technology we receive is probably at least 50 years behind the times of what they're capable of. So,
but it's amazing how, like, if we have this technology and continue to build on it, we still go to war, and it's still got to be on the news as an ongoing crisis problem, when it should, like, I'd push a button and it'd vaporize whoever, and then it'd never have to reach the news. But then it's a scare tactic there that you need to know what's going on, and you need to hate this country for that purpose.
We always have to have an enemy. It doesn't matter what year we live in, there will always be an enemy.
It gets to me. It gets old. Even as a kid, I'm like, I don't care about this.
Right now, who's the enemy? Russia. Who was the enemy back in the?
Are they still?
Well,
I thought that was old news. I don't know.
They don't really talk about them lately because I guess they're not fitting in with the agenda.
Isn't that weird?
Which, here's another head scratcher. I think I sent it to you yesterday.
Sure.
Mississippi has a drinking water problem.
Okay, yeah.
We don't know how we're going to fix it. Like Jackson, I think it's the town or whatever it was. It's down in Mississippi.
Yeah.
Same story of Flint, Michigan from 2013, 2014 time frame. They have a drinking water problem. Oh, it's going to take billions of dollars to fix all the lead piping. Oh, look, Ukraine needs money.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Let's just keep sending billions and billions and billions and billions. But we don't know how we can pay for stuff for our own people in our own country because, they don't matter. But wait a minute.
I feel like...
Hold on.
Sure.
Not to interrupt, but the point being, they don't matter, yet other countries do matter.
Yeah.
Why are these areas not mattering? Well, if you look geographically, and this is not me being the white man here, but those areas are typically not white people.
Same with Flint.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's how it was when not just Agent Orange was president, but the previous president, and now this current one. If they really gave a shit about their people of this country, they would have already taken care of those issues, but they don't.
Mm-hmm.
They don't matter.
Right.
So, sorry for the
They're fine.
little tirade to cut you off, but
That's all right. No. Actually, I forgot what I was going to say. I guess it didn't matter.
nothing matters at this point.
None of that matters.
No one matters.
So, we had the hurricane. Well, it's funny because, again, my source works for a power company, and he said during, I believe, on Obama's presidency, they went to this hurricane. I don't know if it was Florida. I can't remember. Not disclosing the location because I can't remember. But he said apparently it got hit there, but when they went down, then there was nothing. They were basically paid to do nothing. But the news was saying it was so bad down there. And it's like, are they just making up storms now? Is another conspiracy? Because you and I don't know what's going on in fucking Florida, and they could just put it on the news and we'll say, we'll send our prayers and thoughts. And I don't know how maybe they cut off the local news to not say shit and nobody knows any better in a small town. But I always wondered about that, if they make up fake storms.
I don't know. There's been videos released where the guy was out. He was a newscaster, and I forget what storm it was, but
Yeah.
he was hunkered down to make it look like the water was a lot higher than what it actually was. Like, he hunkered down to where it was up to, like, his waist,
Yeah.
and then he stood up and it was just past his ankles. Like, I don't know how that worked, but, like, somehow he managed to make it look like it was a lot deeper in where he was standing than what it actually was.
And that's pretty screwed up that they have the agenda right there to just make things worse than it is. It's like, how do you get away with that?
Got to control the narrative.
The narrative is then there is no global warming.
The narrative would be to try and keep everyone concerned about something. Keep them distracted. Keep their minds not looking to a certain direction, because if you're consumed by some natural crisis somewhere else, that allows them the freedoms to go about and do whatever it is they please to do without being questioned, looked at, whatever.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, as a society, we're too stupid to question things that aren't right out in front, out in the open.
Yeah, no, it's the same. Like the other day, I was telling my woman that there is a storm machine. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, it makes clouds and it affects the rest of it. It's a weather machine. I had to send her the video, and she was quiet after that. Because, I don't know, it was interesting because they just flat out say, like, we can control storms with this. And
there's the HARP machine up in Alaska, which I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but
I don't know if this one is in Alaska. Is that the only one? I feel like there's another one.
There's probably another one, but the one that's well known is the HARP machine up in Alaska.
I have to see
and they do all the stratosphere testing.
I have to look at pictures of this.
They've got all the little antennas and satellite things, relays, and they send up all these like radio signals and stuff into the stratosphere, and it's supposed to be able to control certain things, and they're getting all these readings. And the conspiracy for that is in 2004 when they had that big tsunami that took out like Indonesia and some of those other Pacific areas. That was when they first tested it, when they first turned it on. Then they had that earthquake, and the same thing with the Japanese earthquake. And like, supposedly people all relate this HARP machine basically causing all these natural disasters, which I'm not 100% certain that's the case. But at the same time, it's like, if you start to follow the trail and start really digging into the stuff, your tinfoil hat just gets a little bit bigger because your head starts to swell up.
Mm-hmm.
Because it all does start to make sense.
Yeah.
And then it's like, is it really a conspiracy if it's true?
No. It looks kind of, now that I see a picture of it, it looks kind of harmless.
Yeah, it just looks like a bunch of like
power antennas.
Yeah, electrical grids and this and that. But for some reason, they've had.
Why does this one look fake?
There's so many issues, and people for whatever reason want to pinpoint that. But again, because it's so well known, if that's where you're really going to conduct all your research, why would you do it where the places that everyone's already looking at you?
Right.
I'm sure there's another grid somewhere that's not been well known, easy to get to.
Yeah, because it may have blocked off the road, and they're like, you don't know it's there. You know, it's basically hidden in plain sight, but you're just not going to go there. I mean,
we live in a age now where everyone can get on Google Earth and scour over things.
And they find things, accidentally.
Which I was able to look through locations last night from people that were listening to the little teaser trailer from this podcast. And I sent it to you because it was an interesting location, which, pull it up here because I forget what the name of it was. But it was an area that seemed strange. Boardman Bombing Range.
Mm-hmm.
Why, for a podcast that is not even released yet, only a minute and 45-second teaser talking about future episodes is being listened to by someone in a bombing range? It's not even being promoted yet, but for some reason that just popped up. I was like, well, maybe because it falls in line with an agenda. Certain topics are controversial, so
I wonder if because you put tinfoil in the word. That's because they're not going to look at every podcast. Well, maybe they do. It ain't hard to like just skim through it and like, okay, this is a baking podcast. Cool, skip.
But no, like you said, the name kind of Tinfoil Tales kind of piques the interest.
Be like, this is a meth use podcast. What are you talking about?
They're using it to store their chemical weapons.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I'm going to get raided by some alphabet agency.
Sure.
And
those 70,000 workers.
Yeah, if I happen to mysteriously disappear or commit suicide by shooting myself twice in the back of the head, execution style, like the Boondock Saints, it wasn't me. It was probably the Clintons. But just saying.
Yeah. If I go missing, whatever, that would be kind of awkward because I'm just kind of always there.
We're too small for
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, we ain't shit. I mean, it's already out there, people, like crazy FBI. It's already out there. People know this stuff that's random. Now, whether they think that people are going to actually fall for it, that's another thing. Because, nobody likes... A lot of people are totally conspiracy against... That's a whole little subject. All these people that hate conspiracy theories, they're against them. They don't even want to be... They don't want to open their mind up. They just want to be taught wake up, do the same thing, shit, eat, go to bed, work, whatever.
Because at the end of the day, I guess it is, and this is the truth of the matter, we might actually be able to see through some of the crap, but at the end of the day, there's nothing anyone can do about it. Like, we literally sit around and joke about how certain individuals can come up committing suicide or whatever it is that they mysteriously do, and they're all tied to a certain political group, and everyone laughs and makes jokes, just like Mr. Chomo Island man who mysteriously, camera cut out, guards were sleeping, hangs himself.
Yeah.
We all know that's not the case, but everyone just kind of jokes about, Epstein didn't kill himself. Okay, well, I think everyone can agree to that, but at the end of the day, it's like a joke because nothing can be done about it. Like, it's like, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So
we were just talking about the other guy, the Weinstein guy, and how, like, he had his hand in everything, and then all of a sudden, he's a scumball that is like a dirty secret scumball, and now he went down because of it. It's just weird time. The timing's all weird about how all this stuff's happening. You know,
the Me Too thing came about at an awkward time, and I feel like that had some ties into some other parties, and I think the people that got taken down, it wasn't because of the people that came out about them. There's people behind the scenes that were actually pulling those strings as well. They'd pissed the wrong people off.
Do you think the Me Too movement is a good thing or bad?
If done correctly, for stuff that probably should be brought to attention, yes, it's a good thing. But I think nowadays it's another reason for cancel culture to come out and try and destroy people.
But like, I also had a conversation with somebody who was older, and it's like back in the day, you know, you go clubbing, smack a girl's ass, and just be kind of normal. Like the little things that, you know, macho men would do, and all of a sudden now it's bad. It's like, is this kind of a reset on how things were supposed to be? Like, guys aren't supposed to just grab a girl's butt and be like, how's it going, gorgeous, or sit on my lap. You know, like, because you see it in like old TVs and movies that they kind of acted that way.
Basically, that mindset would be, to me, yes, I don't really think a dude should just walk up to a random girl and just grab her ass and be like, hey, baby.
Right.
Like, yeah, you just kind of cross that boundary. Like, guy comes up, grabs my ass, says, hey, baby. I'm going to be like, what up, dude? I don't think nothing of it, but I'm also,
right.
I'm not a woman, so.
Right.
And I don't try and think like I know how it makes someone feel, because everyone feels differently about certain topics, certain things, certain gestures, certain actions. So, yes, I don't think people should be objectified that way. But the people that piss me off the most about it is the ones that are saying, oh, you can't do this, don't treat me like this, stop objectifying me, this and that. Well, here's my Snapchat with me showing my cleavage and blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm a woman, I can do that. Well, yeah, but you also should understand that you're also going to get the attention, the unwanted attention, because everyone knows a man's programmed to be a certain way. And every guy is going to be like, oh, look, hot woman, boobs, whatever.
Right.
Like, that's just, if you don't want the attention, but yet you're bringing up on unwanted attention because of your own actions, and I'm not saying you can't do that, because I really don't give two shits what you do.
Right.
But it's just like, it's like a double-edged sword. You can't really have an opinion one way or the other, because you're not going to fall into what they want you to believe.
Right.
Like, you're going to hurt someone's feelings. Oh, he's a white knight. He's trying to protect the women, this and that. No, I'm just saying, like, I don't think a guy should walk up there and grab some woman's ass, grab her by the boob, whatever.
Right.
That's not your body, which will lead me to a different avenue here in a second.
Sure.
But people need to just be responsible and be respectful and not be giant pieces of shit, because it isn't your body. Just like the people say, my body, my choice, but yet people that didn't want to take a vaccine were killers, and you didn't really have a choice, because then they mandate things. Well, it's no longer your body, your choice.
Right.
Just like with abortion now, well, it's my body, my choice. Well, it's not the same as the vaccination that you either got or didn't get. I don't care if you got it or didn't get it. Again, it's your choice. But how can you judge one set of people differently and then be a hypocrite the other way? Like, at the end of the day, we're a society of fucking hypocrites.
That's I kind of blame. I guess you could say from social media, because otherwise, where would you hear it? I don't know if the news talks about this stuff as much as social media pushes it.
I don't watch the news anymore.
I don't either.
So I really can't tell you what they say, because I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to mainstream media as it was.
Right.
But there's always been an agenda. I feel like social media has an agenda. Facebook now limits what posts people can see. If I post something up of a random family photo or whatever, I'll get a lot of attention. If I posted something up about this podcast, I get no interactions and no one even seen it. I posted that video from the teaser. No one's acknowledged it. No one's seen it. It took 3 days for my wife to even come up on her feed that I'd posted something. So that's Facebook already.
It got buried, huh?
It's already being buried.
The arts got buried.
So
that also reminds me of, well, I guess on another tangent about back to the weather thing. It's like, I truly wonder, if we have a lot of machines we don't know of, I wonder if they're all turned off now and the weather's kind of healing itself.
If they had the ability to control the weather, wouldn't it be so much easier to have total control of everything? Because if you look at it like this, who needs to have nuclear weapons and this and that? And let's not fear, let's just use the propagated Russia issue or North Korea or whoever the bad guy, quote unquote,
right,
is at the time. If you can just make a bunch of tornadoes start randomly coming through and wiping out big civilization areas, like, what do you got to do? Like, well, it was a natural disaster. Here's a big earthquake. Oh, look, St. Petersburg's now completely dissolved. Moscow's gone.
Yeah.
Volcano just erupted. Everyone's down in lava. Like, as crazy as it sounds, like, if they had the abilities to do something like that, maybe I'm demented, but I think that would be the way I would go about it. Oh, look, North Korea's right off the coast. Let's go ahead and have this massive earthquake happen, and then a big tsunami just wipe them out. Hey, look, guys.
Oh, yeah. We don't have to go to war with them. Yeah, that's true. I mean, if we did have that much, or maybe we don't have something to that degree, I don't know. Tornadoes are crazy. I don't really know what kind of power would control something that fierce. I mean, nothing, I would think. But like little cute little storms. But yeah, I feel like... Yeah.
I know they tried in Vietnam to make it the rains. Like, they went up there, they peppered the sky with whatever little stuff they could in the clouds to try and make the monsoons and flood them out.
Mm.
That's been admitted before. Like, they have tried to do shit like that. They tried to either drown them or burn them with napalm. Whatever they got to do. But as far as actual weather control, I just feel like if some country really had the power and capabilities of controlling weather, making natural disasters, this and that. I'm not saying we don't help make things worse, like these random hurricanes, that we're not out there seeding them and making them bigger. But at the same time, it's like, if you had that ability, wouldn't you just make some massive storm come into your quote-unquote enemy's area and just naturally wipe them out, and your hands are washed free, clear, because it looks like a natural disaster? Well, blame God, because we didn't do it. We're good on this one. Yep, sorry. Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. Hey, we're going to send you billions of dollars to help relieve. Yeah, we won't take care of our own people.
Right. I guess I didn't think about it that way, because unless it's not a very good known science, or the technology is just not good enough yet. But I don't know. I mean, you could be saying something there about they would be using it to their benefit.
I just look at it like this. If I was the government, I'm going to weaponize whatever I can.
Yeah, sure.
Because they already do.
Right.
So if you have the ability to control natural cycles, natural order, whatever, I'm just going out on a limb here and saying that that's probably what they'd be out doing. And who's to say they're not?
Have a lot of lightning storms that fry a bunch of people.
Maybe this is part of the reason those storms and this weather around here lately have been getting weirder, because it's all going to lead into stupid things like more natural disasters, bigger stuff. So that way when the major shit happens, it's going to look like it wasn't anything that they had anything to do with.
Right.
So
I feel like the storms don't hit the trailer fart factories enough, though. Those are like, off limits.
The random fires in factories lately, though, not a natural disaster, not a weather related, I don't believe. Some of them claim there was lightning that struck them, but it's just convenient that a lot of these, like your Amazon places and your Walmart distribution centers and like your grocery place, like all these random places that continue the shortage issue that apparently is an issue. There's so many that have caught fire within the last year and burnt to the ground. But yet you don't see anyone talking about it.
Man,
So,
it's kind of an issue. Like, why is that happening? Because I don't know. You could be living somewhere for a long time before a real fire starts, but lately, the fires are jumping everywhere.
yeah.
It's like coincidence, or like
They're not burning anything of non-importance.
right.
It seems to just target like food and other type distributions. It's not like you said the random trailer factory. Oh, building RVs. Well, the place burned to the ground. Can't build these RVs this week.
Yeah.
So, no, it's stuff that people
What was
really
the last
need.
one that burnt? It was in Indiana. It was like an oil refinery.
Oil refinery last week burnt.
That's so random. Of like, how long has it been there? And it's like, this week it's decided to set on fire for no reason.
Well, that's why gas prices went up. They claim it was because of the holiday, but it's also because, the oil went up.
I think they're just doing that to piss us off, which is nothing new.
I don't quite understand why gases went up to where it has, because if they use Ukraine and Russia, yet we don't use Russian oil, what does that have to do with our prices rising if we don't import their oil anyways?
I don't know.
But they turn around and blame it on them while the price went up because the Russian oils went up. Okay, you just said we don't use Russian oil. Well, it's because of the war. The prices went up. Well, why? Because you said we don't use it. Well, it's because of the war. What? They just keep talking stupidity until you either shut up or you just become as stupid as they are.
Yeah, it's a bad joke with no punchline, like every day. Like I'm sure, like after this holiday, or maybe tomorrow, somebody will shoot up a mall. Oh, like it's almost predictable.
Yeah.
Unlike this weather, which is not predictable. I don't understand. And like the weatherman never gets it right hardly anymore. They used to, I feel like they did. Like, it's gonna rain, blah blah blah.
It was supposed to be raining today, and as you can see,
They said at 6 p.m., but where I lived,
here was supposed to be at 2, and we're now
really
past 2.
I kind of got it. Yeah, it changed in Goshen, but like I kind of got a little rain on the way here, which it didn't say it was supposed to. So I got like drip drops in the car, but I'm like, I don't remember. Yeah, see.
No, we haven't really had this weather pattern this year of what we would have had the last few years. I feel like it's been really dry for the most part, which at least down here it seems to have been like this spring it rained. Just felt like it never stopped raining. And now this summer's like, well, where's the rain?
But lately, every time it rains where I live, the power goes out because they've been pretty fierce. It's like it seems every time there's a storm, it's gonna something gets knocked out. It's almost guaranteed. Like I think we got PTSD from it, PTSD, whatever.
A few years ago, and it's happened several times now. Kokomo seems to always get hit with really bad storms. And I think it was 6 years ago now, a tornado went through Kokomo. Took out a few people's that I know, like some of their stuff, but it wiped out the Starbucks right in the
I remember that. There's a picture of it.
Yeah. Now, like 3 years prior to that, I'm trying to leave Kokomo, and there's more tornadoes going through. Same friggin' area. Just, there's this one street, and then there's the other street beside of it. Big tornado went through there, and it threw like one of the outside tables into the wall of the Chuck E. Cheese. Like it was stuck through the concrete. And then it took out a bunch of stuff, and I was just right on the outskirts of it. And then just not even a half mile up the road, the gas station at 18 and 31, it hit there, blew the sign over, all sorts of stuff, and I literally pulled over on the side of the road just prior to getting there because I couldn't see because the wind and rain was so bad.
Yeah.
I just pulled off the side of the road because I was like, oh, shit, I can't see it. I had no idea I was driving into a damn tornado.
Just outrun it.
And then earlier that year, there was another one just right out here side of Peru. So there's been quite a few tornadoes that's went through here in the last 9 or so years. But it's kind of just one of those things. It's like, what makes tornadoes come in certain areas? They're so random, but yet they've hit the same exact
Flat.
areas.
Well, to me, this whole area is flat. complete flat. In my opinion, I don't know, just flat.
Have you ever wondered why a tornado has never hit a major city? Like, you see them take out small cities, and I'm not wishing this to ever happen.
I feel like they have been showing up in random.
But you don't ever hear of, like, a giant tornado taking out Kansas City. Like,
correct.
Or you don't.
It's never
St.
a
Louis.
huge, like a huge capital.
Yeah. You don't see them, like, going into, Dallas, Texas, no longer there because a tornado just wiped them out. F5. No, you don't see anything. Like, you don't see tornadoes up around Chicago. You hear about them, but they don't see them in downtown Chicago.
Well, there was one up in Michigan, which most of the Michigan people were actually shocked it even showed up there. There's a video of it destroying things, and the person parked under a car wash. I don't know if you saw that, but
you don't really hear about tornadoes up in that area too often.
That's what the Michigan people said. They're like, that's kind of weird. Like, why?
Supposedly, though, this is also strange. You don't really think about this state. It's one of those flyover states that you don't ever hear anything about, but, like, supposedly, like, South Dakota gets a lot of tornadoes. When I think of South Dakota, I just think of nothing but, like, barren farmland. I've never been there, but, like, that's just the picture that I get. So, could be completely wrong. So, sorry, South Dakota, if I'm off-kilter with that comment, but that's just the image that I get. You don't ever really hear anything about South Dakota. I honestly couldn't even tell you a town in South Dakota.
Never been, sorry.
Yeah.
So definitely there's something wrong with the weather, and I feel like people don't pay attention to it, but if you should, and of all the last crazy things that have been happening, then you're going to notice things are a little off. And I don't know if it's because of, like, I don't know, I feel my honestly I thought things, when Orange Man came in, it seemed like things got weirder. I don't know if, or maybe I'm just, like, telling myself that, or maybe I'm just more aware, or maybe because of us crazy followers that they told us to be more aware. You know, it's like watching Men in Black 3. You think it's entertainment, but when you actually start believing in the things going on in those movies, you're like, oh, crap. They're just showing it right in our face. Those movies are crazy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of truth to some of the stuff we see in movies. Hollywood and the CIA have been kind of
that's true.
knit like fingers crossed together, all hunky dory, and it didn't used to be that way. Like, I'm pretty sure it was maybe back in the 1980s. I think that's when CIA and the government, or whatever alphabet existing agencies are out there, started trying to get a little bit more involved with the agendas being pushed on everyone. Like, that's when I think the media really started.
Damn it, that's when the 80s was fun. Maybe that's the problem.
I think that's when they started to try and push, like, you don't really remember the 70s. You had a bunch of war movies. You had like Apocalypse Now. Was that the 70s? Pretty sure it was.
Yeah.
And then you had your Deer Hunter, and then you had your whatever else.
I'm trying to think.
Like your Vietnam, anti-Vietnam stuff. Like, those were, like, not so much anti-American, but almost like anti-war type stuff.
Okay.
And then you had your early 80s where you had stuff like Platoon and this and that. And then all of a sudden, things shifted. Now all your war movies starting to get pumped out were more like, oh, war is bad, but we're going to focus on the heroes and we're always the good guys. And, oh, we're shaving Ryan's privates and, like, stuff like that. Like, we're making it almost feel good stuff about how good we were, and it's like that's about the time.
That's what Rambo was, basically.
Yeah,
that was a good.
That one, Rambo might have been the shift though, because he went from being anti, like the first one. Did that come out in the early 80s or late 70s?
That was early 80s for sure. 81, I think.
Well, then the sequel, what happened? Now he's a war hero. He's back over fighting.
Right, finishing.
And then he goes to Afghanistan, and then the sequel he's back into whatever. Viet Cong. Yeah,
and then the last one was the Mexican cartel.
But it's like the first one was really good because it followed this fact that he's not so much a bad guy.
Correct. He was abandoned by his government, and then they made him out to be one.
And yeah, against
Unstable.
the police and everything else. Like, it dealt with some real type stuff, and then all of a sudden now he's a super badass. We're gonna have him take out entire armies by himself type guy, and like
all without his shirt on.
Yeah, so like the believability factor kind of went out the window. But again, that's when they try and paint themselves as being be all that you can be. We're making recruitment movies now. It's like, at what point was that shift happen where they started invading the media? Like, that's when about the time probably the
Reagan era, maybe.
I would say that's probably about the truth of it, because whenever he took office, he was a Mr. Hollywood anyways. He came from Hollywood.
He had his connections.
And the Reagan area is also interesting because, for those with the tinfoil hats on, Reagan really believed in UFOs and aliens. That's why he wanted to do his own Star Wars movie. That's why he has that famous speech about if there's ever like a race of aliens or some, I'm paraphrasing, but like came down, that we'd have to be united and this and that. Like, weird that a president would just randomly start talking about stuff like that, but he's even had his own experiences, and I think Jimmy Carter claimed he had one as well. So it's like, but around that time frame is when I personally think and noticed that movies started to try and shift their tone of what they were painting. Like the rebellious against America Vietnam era stuff of the 70s and early 80s was kind of like, well, we're gone now. All of a sudden we're big heroes. And everything's gung-ho, and then all of a sudden you get these movies coming out in the 90s where Independence Day, where you get Will Smith, and then you get kicking alien asses, and USA this, and then he's Men in Black, and like that dude literally was in like everything in the damn 90s. And but that's like the agenda that was being painted, not to go off on some bizarre off-weather topic, but it's like there's always been, if they have a way to control something, they're going to control it. And that's why I said if they control the weather, why wouldn't that already be being instigated into a means of control? Because one country might have resources that we need, but we're a good country. We don't invade other countries for resources or anything like that. Like, we wouldn't go bomb Afghanistan or Iraq for anything negative. We'd go there to liberate their people, not because they have oil or anything. So
it does remind me of what you said about, I guess it goes back, maybe we do have, again, control of it because it's not hit the big cities, because that's important. I don't know why. I think because we can't just, I mean, if you're going to control people, you don't want to kill them all off either. You need them for resources to work and come up with things that you couldn't, you know.
When was the last time there's been a big earthquake? Like in America?
I remember, like, no, I don't know actually, because I remember that.
You always used to hear about California having earthquakes and like this and that, and then like in the 70s you had your earthquake movies and whatever else. But like, when was the last time something major, like they had a really big incident? Now I know they had Mount St. Helens. I think that's in Washington. That erupted in the early 80s, I believe. Again, I apologize for not being very well versed in this freestyle episode, but supposedly during that, this is another tinfoil hat, but there was people blocking off certain areas that they wouldn't let anyone go to rescue, because they were rescuing out supposed humanoid type creatures that they didn't want the public to see. They said they saw a bunch like cast and like covered up and this and that. There were bodies being hauled off by a helicopter. Now, the public was told that, well, they were burnt victims and this and that. But you got some people that believe, well, no, they were like a Sasquatch or some other type of creature beings or whatever that were being like hauled off because they didn't want. Again, I don't know. I've never seen one.
Right.
I wasn't there. I can't really tell you. I just know that that's one of those conspiracies that's thrown out there about Mount St. Helens eruption. Was there was government involvements that were hauling
I've never
off.
heard this one, actually, at least that part.
Yeah, there was supposedly
look into that.
There were supposedly like some government agents hauling off bodies and this and that, and no one ever knew what they were doing. They wouldn't let people around certain areas.
Maybe it was a base and it blew up. I don't know.
Who knows? But other people I've heard and read, which don't believe everything you read on the internet. Trust me.
Sure.
They believe there was, like you just said, there was a base actually in the mountain doing some sort of testing and stuff in the mountain.
Yeah.
Not so much human testing, but testing from creatures not of this earth.
Or maybe they are from the earth. They're just underground.
Maybe that's where the aliens really come from. They're not aliens. They were always here.
We're in a dome, yo. Not getting into that.
That's another topic.
Right.
People believe that we're in a dome, that the earth is flat. There's just so many things that, as crazy as it sounds, people can somehow show you things that make you go, It'd
be nice to know the truth. And then, like, kind of checklist who was wrong about what. I mean, I don't think we'll ever get to that point where we'll know.
I feel like there's been a very bad dumbing of society because when we were growing up, we knew the earth was round. It was a globe. Now we have celebrities coming out talking about earth being flat because when they're on their airplanes looking out their windows, they don't see a curve. Well, I guess I never have either when I've been in an airplane. And I can't 100% say that I know for sure that the planet, when you get out into outer space, is round. I don't see why it wouldn't be. I don't see the agenda of why they would try and lie about that.
I don't know either. I mean, but it is funny every time there's like a spaceship outside the atmosphere. It's always like a fisheye lens.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you really need? I mean, if I want to see something on space, I want it to not be fisheye lens. I want to see how vast it is, but it just seems like that's the only camera that can handle.
How come you hardly see any stars in space, like the moon landing and all those photos? You don't see any stars in the background. It's just pitch blackness. And how do you have multiple shadows coming from different angles from the moon when there should have been only one light source?
Yeah.
Again, that's another topic for another day. But as far as the weather goes, again, I do believe that there is something. I believe that the government, not just ours, but all governments, I think they're fucking around with the weather. Why wouldn't they be? Because, again, if you can control the weather, you can control the world. If you can control the world, you basically just made yourself God. So
pretty much.
Everyone wants to have the superpower. They want to have the threat of nuclear weapons. They want to have this and that. But let's be real. If you can control the weather, you don't need super weapons because you have the super weapon. You don't need nuclear weapons because it's...
Yeah,
you can control everything from just the weather. Like, oh, I don't like these people. We're just going to wipe your entire country out with tornadoes. Wipe you off. You're gone. See ya.
That's why Captain Planet was an underrated cartoon.
Captain Planet dealt with some real shit that no one wanted to talk about.
Yeah, see, he had a cool mullet. The guy knew.
I actually used to really like that show. I used to have a Captain Planet toy. And I really don't know whatever happened to it.
I like that. I actually like that cartoon. Because the dude had a mullet. But no, it almost made you want to feel like, man, this planet's getting messed up. But I don't think I did anything as a kid.
I'm sure I didn't help contribute to anything.
No. But it was cool to be aware of it. Like, damn, I need to recycle.
I don't remember if we recycled or not. I don't believe we did, but...
I don't know if I did either. I mean, recycling wasn't pushed until later, in my opinion. I mean, we had, like... They always had the bottle deposit. Well, we didn't have bottle deposits where I live, but some places did.
I know around here, there's a recyclable place in town, when the old place I used to work at, we used to recycle the paper there. We recycle the plastics, this and that. But I don't see anything wrong with recycling, because you look at some of the clips and stuff that you see online, there's literally just floating islands of trash.
Yeah.
That's literally what we've done to the planet. And then there's these landfills around here. We just keep digging holes and burying our garbage.
Right.
It's never going to go away. Like, plastic doesn't really deteriorate.
No.
So it's like, we've made so much crap. I'm looking around the garage right now, and all I see is plastic. It's like, we don't help matters, because we don't even think about stuff like that. We just buy the shit and go from there.
Isn't that weird how an invention like that kind of caught on, and they didn't really think about the after effects? Like, well, I mean, they're not, I mean, when you're thinking of invention, you're just thinking about the idea that it could help, but not
what it does over years, hundreds of years of time.
It's like, I'm going to make this bottle that can withstand a lot of things, but I also didn't think about how it affect being buried.
Yeah, because back in the 80s, I'm pretty sure that's when they started going to plastic. Because back in the old days, Coke bottles were glass bottles.
Yep.
A lot of stuff was glass, and then like 70s or 80s came around, plastic started getting pushed, and all of a sudden everything's plastic these days. You don't really see hardly anything that's not plastic.
Yep. It's a norm.
So.
I don't know. I'm just going to keep digging holes.
The more you dig, the deeper it gets.
Yeah.
Always bring a shovel, because you never know how far you're going to keep digging down that rabbit hole. So.
Pretty much.
I think we're going to wrap this one up. Thanks for, again, sticking around and listening to two guys ramble on about the conspiracies they got in their own heads about certain agendas, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you. Thanks for Ed for coming out and being the first guest on this show.